Do you ever wonder and think to yourself, what makes you you? Or what makes me me? Or what am I? Who am I? How am I supposed to embrace myself if I don't know who the F that is? Or better yet, do you ever feel completely alone in your existence because you're the only person that's ever lived it? No one can empathize with you because you're the only you that exists? In his very long adventure of defining what makes you you, or what defines an authentic human being, the German philosopher Martin Heidegger came up with one very key word, and this is thrownness. As being, Dasein is something that has been thrown. It has been brought to its there, but not of its own accord. Dasein being our authentic self. In other words, our thrownness is the who, what, where, when, and I guess why of our birth. But of course, this does include not of its own accord, and so the classic I never chose to be born is included in the definition of thrownness. So often we hear arguments over nature or nurture, but truly thrownness encapsulates it all. As nature and nurture, the argument always ends with it's both. And so thrownness is a perfect, all-encompassing word of exactly why you are you right now. With both nature and nurture and everything in between. To talk to you about this concept further, I would love to share about how it fits within the movie Horton Hears A Who. You might be surprised to hear this, but it actually shares how the concept of thrownness works perfectly. And there are so many examples, honestly, too many examples to actually share. So we're just gonna stick to like the main characters. But to start, the movie plays with its credits rolling over the most beautiful scenery and landscape, and we find our spec, which we will get to later. As the movie starts, we're actually introduced to our very first example of thrownness, with the main character, Horton, teaching a class about leaf bugs. As the leaf bug is thrown into life, it unfortunately then has to hide as a leaf in order to protect itself from predators. This is of course a very simple example of thrownness, but it shows exactly why this movie is a perfect example of the entire concept. Because we are just born the way we are born. Our beautiful leaf bug class is actually completely interrupted by the fact that there's a flower floating through space, and with this flower, Horton hears a scream and is suddenly imagining this teeny tiny little family hurtling through space on this flower, and is like, I need to protect and save it, and save the tiny little family that's on the flower. After Horton saves the flower, we are introduced to our next big character, who is Kangaroo, who has a little baby kangaroo in her pouch, homeschooled kangaroo versus the, Horton teach kids. We are already getting blatant examples of thrownness and why people are different.
And the children are learning so much from him.
Learning to be a bunch of harebrained half-wits. And that's why my Rudy is pouch-schooled.
She's literally the antagonist of the film. Anyways, Kangaroo is insisting that tiny, itty-bitty little people cannot exist. That is literally impossible. Beautifully enough here, Horton says maybe we are people on a teeny tiny speck floating through space.
What if there was someone way out there looking down on our world right now?
Maybe there's people even bigger than us that think we are impossible and don't exist. And this is literally what is happening right now, today, as we human beings are on a teeny little rock in comparison to all of space ever. But what does Kangaroo say? No, that's impossible. What the H are you teaching to all of these kids? I'm so glad my kid isn't being taught by you. No, 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 no. Unfortunately, Horton is the only person that can hear the people on the spec because he has giant elephant ears. Quite literally, there's no other elephant that is there that can confirm that there's noises going on the spec. And so Kangaroo, being the bossy boss that she is like, Horton's crazy. Horton's going crazy. We gotta fix this right now. And I'm sorry to spoil the movie if you haven't watched it or read the book, but there is a family on the spec. There are people on the spec. In fact, there's an entire city and planet. The spec is in itself a planet of people living on this tiny speck on the flower. In comparison to the giant world, they are minuscule, but they exist. They still exist. But on this tiny speck, we have an entire population, our main character being of which Steve Carell, the mayor of the speck of Whoville, if you will. And the mayor's family has ruled over the whole speck since the time of cavemen. Not to mention that the mayor has almost 100 children, but only one son. But each and every one of the kids has the most unique personality in the world. You can see that each and every one of them are different, including the son, Jojo, Jesse McCartney, who's this super duper little shy goth emo boy who wants nothing to do with anything. But because this is a patriarchy, he will be next in line for the kingdom of Whoville. What's really important to note here is that even though the mayor has 100-ish kids, with their Thrownness being all almost exactly the same, they are very still unique individuals. Still. Of course, their Thrownness at that point really can only be differentiated by when they were born, but also how everything happens after that moment. You know, if you're in grade 1 versus your sister being in grade 2, you guys are still gonna have completely different experiences for that life. Not to mention how each and every other person interacts with you, that is also going to be different. And so while we have 100-ish kids, they are all unique, beautiful individuals. But of course, the son is also a very unique individual, and we will get to more on that later. When the mayor meets Horton, he literally could not believe that he is on a speck, a minuscule person, maybe, you know, the smallest thing alive today. Who can believe that? If a giant told you, hey, you're teeny weensy tiny in comparison to me, I'm out here in a whole world, I mean, how would you react, right? But in the movie, the mayor, he kind of goes crazy. He actually goes to see a scientist friend to see if it's even actually literally possible, which is brilliant. You always want to check with your scientists. It is truly an incredible realization to find that you are a teeny tiny person on a teeny tiny speck, but the matter of the fact is that their world is suddenly unsafe. Their speck was safe on a flower, on a hill, on a whatever, and now it's not. We're gonna be seeing problems. We're gonna be literally global warming to its maxest amount of extent. In short, they're in a lot of danger right now, and how can you feel at all like a special, unique individual if you are just one tiny little thing in a humongous giant world, and on top of that, the giant world is out to get you and attacking you and destroying you? Like, what do you do? On both the large scale and the Whoville scale, both the mayor and Horton need to convince everyone around them that this is a possibility, that it's possible that people can be teeny, teeny, tiny, or that it's possible that we are insignificant in size in comparison to everything around us. And it is not easy to convince the judicial system of Whoville, or to convince the jungle system of the jungle, where Kangaroo is insisting, you have to quit this. We have to throw away this flower. You're creating anarchy and chaos and saying, what if we're tiny? What if other things are tiny? The movie truly escalates to a heart-wrenching, pumping, thudding, what's gonna happen situation, because it's like the people on the spec are real. You can't just say they aren't real, even for your own safety. The moral of the story here is
There are people on this spec. Granted, they're very small people, but a person's a person, no matter how small.
And why does this all apply to Thrownness? Truly what it means is that if you are born into a bigger world, it doesn't mean diddly squat. It doesn't mean that you are any more or less real or meaningful or have more value in your life in comparison to someone that was born in a smaller world. And apply that to any single analogy that you wish to, or real life example. Privilege is privilege is privilege is privilege, but it has to be underlined and bolded and in italics and understood that people are all equal in their value and how much they are worth to the world. But its truest extent, we cannot judge people for any freaking fact on how they were made and born and where and who they are and any single thing like that. Equality, baby. A big thing in this movie is the relationship between the mayor and Jojo, because Jojo is next in line in the patriarchy. And we're not going to say anything today about why this is just, why is there a patriarchy in Whoville? No, we're going to talk about the expectations that parents can put on their children. Of course. And so in Whoville, the mayor takes Jojo down the super long line of portraits about how each and every single mayor in the past has been great and fantastic and wonderful. But at the same time, Steve Carell, the mayor, is telling Jojo, you should be great. You should be like me. You should want to be mayor. You should blah, 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 blah. And Jojo's like, no, man, I don't want to do that. I want to go be me. And it's fantastic that the end of the movie, the mayor finally sees, oh, you were born with a different thrownness. Why would you be like me? You're born with your own thrownness. You'll be like you, dog. It's a very beautiful and classic movie of you be you. What's truly beautiful is at the end of the movie, the mayor explicitly says to Jojo, I've been imposing my style of mayoring onto you, but you can do it in any way you want to. The mayor had a huge expectation of Jojo, that Jojo would be exactly like him, but then suddenly realizes, no, we were born completely with different thrownnesses. We've lived completely different lives. He at no point is gonna be exactly like me because I'm the only one that's exactly like me. He's just gonna be exactly like him, who he is, and be his own guy. And that's just a fantastic example of respecting other people's uniqueness and individuality and thrownness. Because if you are expecting everyone to have lived the same exact life you've lived, you are surely mistaken. In the end, our thrownness does go past where we're born or how, when, who, why we're born, and it does continue through all of our life. As nature and nurture continue throughout all of life for everyone, where we go and how we're taught and everything, a lot of our Dasein, our authentic self in our own thrownness, according to Martin Heidegger, is how we throw ourselves to a certain extent at possibilities of what we can see as a potentiality for our being. And so what does this mean? Everything. It means everything. It means we are fated to be born how we are born, but we are not fated for any single other thing, ever. We actually choose our own fate. A perfect sequel to, what do you do after learning about your thrownness would be talking about the movie A Knight's Tale, Because after you have your stars, what do you do with them? Can you change them? Yeah, you can change your stars after they're set in stone. Because we can't literally. We're born under the stars we're born under. We're born poor, we're born rich. But what do we do after this? This is up to us. This is what makes us our continuously unique individual person and self. The moral of the story here is, once again,
let that be a lesson to one and to all. A person's a person, no matter how small.
No matter where they're born, no matter how they're born, no matter how poor or rich or for better or for worse that they're born, everyone is an individual who has the potentiality for being their own unique, authentic, amazing self and personality and everything. And the story doesn't end there. After this, you pick your own potentialities and where you want to throw yourself. So, where are you throwing yourself today, I wonder? And one more thing before we end it here today. The Horton Hears A Who movie is beautiful. If you are the only person in your entire society that is insisting that something should be treated with respect, do not give up, because everyone else might just be ruled by groupthink and awfulness and just like burn it down craziness, and you're the only person that's actually sane in the group. So that's just a perfect example. If you do want to talk more about groupthink and why the horrors and terrors of Horton Hears A Who happen, I would really suggest you check out my Halloween video about the horrors and terrors of groupthink and how awful it is. Groupthink is the destruction of society, seriously. At least it is in Horton Hears A Who, so why wouldn't it be in real life? With that, I want to thank you so much for watching the video. I know Thrownness is a super simple concept, but it is something that should be understood and talked about. Like, I was born the way I was born, and it kind of makes me exactly who I am today. And everything that happened between here and then that's happened to me, or where I've thrown myself, is just an extension of that and who makes me a human being. And so if you're ever thinking, who am I? Who am I in the world? What am I? Just look back at where you've been and at the potentialities in front of you where you want to go. That's who you are, according to Heidegger, at least. A large aspect of who you are. Thank you so much, as always, for watching and commenting and liking and sharing and subscribing and supporting and all of that amazing goodness. And I really appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and be thrown. Alright, catch you later. Bye. I love you.